going.
You got to clap and start it off.
Celebrate good times. Come on. Let's celebrate.
What episode are we on today,
The
Steve?
New Year's one, you're going to hear that song and it makes me want to punch myself in the face.
Episode number 8. Yeah, the Kool and the Gang just never, I don't know.
Dun-dun-dun-dun.
It
You
was
love
great in
funk.
the 80s. Yeah, we had this
You
conversation
want to talk about
yesterday.
funk music, Melissa?
What are we going to talk about today at episode 8?
We're going to count down 20 things heading into 2025. I'm just going to call it 25. That's so weird. 25.
25.
We just call it 25.
Yeah.
Heading into 25, you and I are going to go back and forth and kind of make some predictions. Somewhat sales and marketing related, somewhat call it business related, all things pop culture and business, sales and marketing combined. It's going to be freaking awesome.
Oh, wow. I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Are you?
Yeah.
Me
How was
too.
your holiday? What was your favorite gift? What did you get?
Time with you and the kids was great.
Oh, that's a nice answer.
Yeah, I think
Is it real? Is it honest?
It is honest because holidays, me and the holidays, we don't get along so well.
You do stress. Yeah. It
It
is
stresses
interesting.
me out. I get all sad and I tend to reflect on that. But I was able to pause and see some joy this year. Some joy.
What did you see?
Joy
did
in
you see
others. And it's not that I was like depressed. I was like, oh, look for it in others. Therefore, not thinking about myself. Aha.
Wow. How so?
It was
40
at your seeing my in-laws talk about their growing up, right?
Yeah, that was
And sort of looking
really
around the
fun.
room and seeing the different generations like listening in. I'm like, that to me is the holidays. That's interesting. It's great. Like it makes the butter-laden pumpkin bars a little more easy to digest.
That sounds disgusting. We did record my parents on Christmas evening. We brought the podcaster kit over, the Roadcaster kit.
Yep.
Set it up.
What is that?
And it wasn't even necessarily for any of our content, but just like what a great gift that is to hear stories. And it's the second time we've done that.
Yeah, it means we're getting old as shit because that would have never been fun when we were 20.
But just to hear, and what was interesting is some of the stories that they told, not necessarily new, but when we started asking them for advice, it got interesting. Was there any pieces of advice that you thought like, oh, that's...
Oh, your mother. What did Ross say? Well, it was something about like, what would you want your grandchildren to know? And she was like, well, first and foremost, that I love them no matter what. And I was like, oh, what a great thing to know. Like that you were loved, that you come from a legacy of love, right? And hard work. And I would say that hearing that story of your dad and sort of where his family was planted in the hotel and then where your mom was sort of like, holding a rifle out the side of a tin shed, like hunting people off the property. And then they met at high school and she was, it's fun to me.
Yeah. What surprised me was my dad's advice where he said, don't look for the differences in people. Look for what you have in common. Which I was like, that's really good advice in a polarizing world that we have. So that was cool.
Yeah. Well, and I think oftentimes we'd be hard pressed to say that we don't hear something very common for people at the last 10 to 25 years of their life or so, right? Which is like, don't work so hard. Like no one cares. And you're just like, wait, and how do I live my life? Because like if you're setting goals and you want to kick some ass and provide great lives and do all the things, like you want to balance it and be like, well, that's cool. But your story is going to be so much different, Melissa, when you were sitting there with and that's when I told you, I saw you sitting there with our grandkids, right? And that was where I was like, cool, like this legacy will be passed on. I see this story weaving itself into our life.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets interesting to me.
So we spent the last couple of days really thinking about what happened over the last year.
Yeah.
What has worked, what hasn't worked. It's been a big year, a lot of things, a lot of change, a lot of moving parts. Halfway through the year, I switched careers.
That's right.
A lot of change with the kids. We have a senior in high school. We have a kindergartner.
Yep.
So, and a couple of 2 other kids in high school as well, a junior and a freshman. So a lot of things changing this year.
There's a lot of
next year.
angst, a lot of teen angst in one house.
And the business has grown.
Yeah.
So, and we're laying out plans for next year. So this episode, we thought, wouldn't it be great to think about or talk about our predictions for 2025?
Rewinding real quick too. We didn't have a podcast last year. I guess I did have a podcast, but it wasn't the official thing. I digress. State of business. One thing we did talk about was we were in a much different place 12 months ago. Panic mode, crisis mode, attriting over the holidays, right? Worst time. I remember just being like, this is terrible. And I said, wow, we're in a different place, right? And
Yeah.
so that's why I like reflecting, is because it causes you to like look at the data and go like, if I could have predicted that this would be where we ended up last year at this point in time, I would have said, please show me how. Let's get exactly there. And so you have to kind of go like, hey, I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, a couple of near-death experiences for the
Yeah,
but we
literally.
figured it out and
Oh my gosh.
had to change a lot of staff. There was a
Hmm.
lot of staff changes in the first half of the
There
year.
was, yeah.
Um, Brought on a couple of folks from an advisory and investment standpoint. So it's been a lot of
Yeah.
change, a lot of great things, a lot of
Investment.
wild
Wow. We
things.
can talk about that for a second. So we took a small investment. We don't have to get into the details, but that was something I didn't foresee happening. I foresee wanting it to happen. I didn't, number one, I didn't think it could happen until someone like you was involved. The second you were involved, I didn't think it would happen that fast.
Well, and I think just going through the exercise of building the deck, telling the story, looking at the numbers, all of that was really great work to
Makes you
do.
look inward, right? Well,
Yeah.
what is our message? What are we doing? I mean, if you could say like, go back and think about April when you sat down as an advisor and I showed you that deck, I think now, and we haven't changed that much yet. Everything's changed. What do you think the biggest change from then to now has been within, call it your day to day at Magnetic, and looking at where the company is now versus where it was then?
Our offering
Okay.
has changed tremendously. So I think part of it has been really dialing in on what is of value to the
Yeah.
clients. And so I think we've spent most of the year honing in on who is our ideal client
Yeah.
and what is our offering.
How
So the
break
two
that
most
down though?
fundamental things.
How did we do that though? Because you're really good at that. What questions did you ask?
So I don't know that it was about questions necessarily as much as putting out different offers and seeing what people wanted and needed.
Yeah.
And then listening as we talked with our clients over the year, over the course of those 9 months, what
Yeah.
is most valuable to you? What do you
Yeah.
need the most?
Yeah.
What is still, kind of keeping you up as you think about growth
Yeah.
and, finding new clients?
Yep. Hand raisers is what we heard a lot, right?
So I do think that is what, like, the most fundamental things is really what we've been focusing on. Fundamentals
Yeah.
is offering and ideal
And
clients.
those are things AI can't yet solve. So
You have to test and figure that out.
yeah, if we're talking about response, right? A big thing that our clients said they want help with, right? Inbox response. Like, how do you get that and do it well? AI is not doing that for you yet, right? It's not being an executive responder and acting as you, not setting the appointment, only going for it at the right time, like using a framework. Like, nope, doesn't come close. So you need a service like us, right, to be able to get those to convert. And I think that's the beautiful part about this is now those creative people who are really skilled get to use AI and look at it and go, I can use it for research. I can write a really effective message. Like I went through the exercises this morning. What we have available now to even kind of know if a message is going to work before we send it is embarrassing. Like nobody should not be having email work when you really stop and look at what's available to test. Spam filtering emails, like subject line tester, like, oh, you can product market fit. Like go test your message with Winter. There's no way that you can't go to market with outbound and make it work. I think a lot of people, Melissa, what we see is they just hit send and they might even get some responses and then they don't even know what to do with then. And yet they still hit a goal and kind of go outbound's not working when we would really have to go time out. It's really not working at all. You don't have a system and you surely aren't responding to people and following up in an intelligent manner. I think some of those biggest opportunities heading to 2025 are the same opportunities that were there 25 years ago. And it's what we just talked about. How do you get the right time, respond to people quickly, get the conversation started in a human way? Here we are. No one's solved it yet.
So what is your prediction as you think about 2025 as it relates to lead generation and outbound, maybe even cold email specifically?
The biggest prediction would be that it starts to couple itself with content more. Think ClickFunnels, think high level, and a lot of people are hearing that now, but in a way that is interesting. So, how do I take you, the prospect, through a more interesting, call it journey, than just a bunch of cold email? How do I get you into a content journey based off of how you're acting and responding to emails? That's all there. The technology's all there. It's a matter of making the content right is the hard part on the back end of that engine. I think that'll get easier for people. And I think that will be where you can personalize and really do that at scale. I think that's my big prediction.
There are a lot of folks banking or betting on AI and AI engagement to make those conversions into appointments.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of noise about that. And I will think I think it will get better, but right now we even see humans can't do it well. So if we're modeling AI over humans that are not very good, it's still not going to work. And I think what's interesting about specifically when we're talking about lead gen and follow-up, whether that's a DM or an email, one of the things that I see experienced salespeople like yourself doing differently is when somebody says, no, thanks, not interested. That's when you start to pull on the thread and say, okay, great. So tell me what you're using. Like if it's going so great for you, like, can you tell me what's working well for you? Or, I appreciate the follow-up, and you'll continue to have a conversation with them that may turn into half the time that turns into an appointment, where an AI bot, when it sees no thanks, the intent data or the AI sentiment says not interested, and people just don't follow up. So, and I would say that's the extreme bookend of the example of a no, and there's the yes, right? But it's the stuff in the middle. And to me, what I keep thinking about when I think about lead gen, the magic is the follow-up. It's the cleanup. It's going back to all the leads that were like, I don't know, and they just sort of fall off, right? There's probably words for this that I'm not using right, but the magic is the follow-up, the continual follow-up. That's the hard part. And that's the part that AI doesn't do and most humans don't do well. So how would you speak to that?
Well, follow-up, I think, is a couple things. Follow-up would be setting the appointment. And then once you get the appointment set, getting them to show up for the appointment. I think that's in software, that's a big thing, right? Because that's like a demo world. I would say it's safe to say heading into 2025, nobody's just scheduling an appointment. Like nobody wants to waste their time, right? We have to make the information available enough. So when someone hits that schedule button, like you should have a demo online. You should have your demos online. They should only be hitting that if they're ready to engage in a conversation. You should be fucking ready to talk back to them the second they're ready, right? How many deals are we going to close all next year if we hit plan, right? 12 new deals?
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to put how many pieces of content out? 700, 1,000?
Well, 365 times you and I, so over 1,000. Yeah, well, that's actually not 1,000, but probably more than that. Yeah, okay. Knowing us, so it'll be more than 1,000.
How many pieces of content per one customer? You start to do that, and then the hours into it, and you're like, our investment into getting one customer is significant.
Yeah.
But when we get a customer and it works out, it's significant. And so we're looking at this as well, just going like, okay, cool. We need more of that, of course, right? But what's the big bet in 2025? And we're going to talk about things today like TikTok. Of course, you have some favorites in terms of new social media that we talk about, Blue Sky. Where is the opportunity? Where's the risk? I think is equally what we should be talking about for people, because I think we should just go through the list. Are you ready to count it down?
Let's see. What do you have on your list,
all right,
Steve?
All right. Let's do this. Sorry. Can I? Oh, I just got to adjust a little bit.
Yeah,
I feel
you
like
can't
an old
move.
man.
No, you're stuck.
Okay. I've got the list on my phone.
The core work in there.
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah.
Speaking of all of that, yeah.
Yeah, really.
Do you do resolutions? Are you going to do a resolution this year?
I guess, yeah. I think I'm feeling really positive.
Okay.
Well, I'm on new medication from my doctor. So that's working really well. So as long as I'm on that, I think I'll be pretty good.
I don't usually do resolutions, but what I do is I write down goals. I have a notebook that I always write things down in every year. And what's crazy about it is when I looked back, and this is a couple of years ago, I actually looked back at some of my old notebooks. All of those things that I'd written down had materialized in some shape or form, not always in that year, but over time, like it had worked out in some way, some maybe not unfolding in the way that I had thought it would. But it's pretty cool, like how if you put an intention out there and you write it down, and you not just like weird manifesting, like I want to make money, but if you actually do have an intention and you write and you think about it and plan for it and do little actions every day to move towards it, it does happen.
Yeah, I believe in that. I believe wholeheartedly in that. I would say for 2025, mine is mindset is just it. Like I've come to the realization that unless that is going hard and positive every day,
Yeah.
Like you just don't even start, right? And I've learned that. And the hard part, if you're like me, is okay, great. I got to commit to that now. I got to be that motherfucker who's so positive
Yeah.
that everybody around him goes, well, what is that guy smoking? And they go, it doesn't matter because I just have to be that way.
You're
And
kind of positive anyway, but
well, inside, like
that's
waking up
right. That's
and
true.
starting to feel that way and being like, I really feel that way instead of just being that to other people.
Instead of showing up that
Sure.
way. Yeah.
Um,
I think for
yeah.
me, because you asked, I think for me, I'm going to continue to focus. One thing I have learned over the last year, probably year and a half, going through some personal stuff with my kids
Hmm.
and other folks is just investing in relationships. And
Yeah.
it's so hard as a scientist and somebody who likes to just fix and problem solve. And I'm a
Yeah.
problem solver. Like I love puzzles, right? So I'm that person who just want like, what is it? Like I'll lean in and I will help you fix stuff and just figure it like what I've had to learn is just really
Mm.
honing in on spending the time, doing things together, like all this stuff where I'm like, ah, it's
Yeah.
just like so hard for me.
Yeah.
But it's the rewards have been incredible. So to continue to focus on relationships, both with my family and with our business associates too, like
Yeah.
developing those and doing good work for them.
I like it.
Yeah. So
It's a
let's
big
hear it.
one.
What you got, Steve? What's your prediction for
Well,
2025?
I've got a list of 10 here. So I'm gonna
Why
talk
don't you
about
start
10
with
things in my
one?
take. Okay.
Yeah,
So
let's hot
the
take.
first
Hot
one
take by Steve.
TikTok gonna get banned in the US? Yes or no? Right. I think ultimately, no, TikTok won't get banned. Let's talk about my thesis on this just a little bit. Okay. So you have Elon Musk, he owns this little thing called X. X is a social media platform. Why wouldn't you want TikTok to get banned and then push those users to your platform? And why wouldn't you want to then take your platform and somebody else's platform who just got elected president and go, wow, we have a big platform because everybody's talking about owning your platform, right? That is a media company, right? And now you're producing cars and solar panels. And I don't want to get too crazy, but that's why it would get banned. I don't think it will get banned because I think ultimately the U.S. will solve a fake deal with China that will take 6 months to try and work out on the back end. It's going to push off the inevitable and it will get banned in 6 to 7 months. But see, a lot of people jump to TikTok before that because anything that's hyped that much to get banned is going to get everybody running to it. So I would personally invest a lot on TikTok and it's going to get all the attention, especially from ages 30 to 55.
So what does a ban mean? I had read that if it's banned, it just means future iterations of TikTok, you'll still be able to use the old platform. Is that correct? What does a ban mean? Do we know?
Well, I'm not a lawyer. I think a ban could lead up to if you use it as a user, you're violating that law, right? And then you could get around it with VPN, but you'd face criminal charges, right? That's the extreme version of that. And everything up to call it what you said. Now, I could use an example if you're like me, and most people aren't if you're 47. Fortnite had a similar thing 45 years
Oh, you
ago.
loved Fortnite for a
I
while. That
did
got
until
weird.
they banned it
Yeah,
on the
you were
iOS. They banned it. Banned it. Still banned.
Is it really?
They have lost so much freaking revenue,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Trying to battle over iOS because they said they took too much of their revenue. There's still, I checked the other day and there's an app you can get around it in London now, but still not in the US, right? So that just goes to show you where I think this could go with like people's willingness to be stubborn over future earnings. And it's just wild to me.
It's like Metallica and Napster.
Oh, wow.
Do you remember that?
That's wild. Lars Ulrich.
Man, that was a while back, but I before there was Napster and then there was another tool. There was another one, not Napster, but it would like essentially get packets of songs and then put them together on the back end.
Yeah.
I did that for so many years. I loved those for every reason.
I could never get it to work. I wasn't that smart. I just be like, is this working or not?
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. I could always get the adult sites to work though. That's
weird.
I'm
sure. Yeah. You probably were motivated more. Maybe.
Yeah. That's weird.
Interesting.
Weird.
Okay. What's do you want to hear one of my predictions for next year?
I do.
So I think that 2025 will be the year of the corporate influencer. So we saw this with Google. I shared something about a month ago where Google was actually promoting individual thought leaders on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And using their kind of like, hey, this is our Google, employee, and they were promoting it. Now they weren't like actively had an necessarily trying to have a call to action, but they were promoting thought leaders from their organization. This particular person had about 200,000 followers on LinkedIn. And they were kind of promoting him as, oh, and by the way, he works at Google. This person who's like sharing all this important information to kind of
Hmm.
promote their own company in a quiet way. But I do think there'll be more
Hmm.
of that because you
Yeah.
can promote individual posts
Yep.
and individual creators on LinkedIn. So
Yep.
I think, and I had a question recently where someone said, is LinkedIn actually monetizable from a creator standpoint? And I said, that's an interesting
Sure.
question. And there
Yeah.
absolutely is ways to do
Brands.
that. So I
Yeah.
think we'll see more and more of that this year, more of
Yeah.
the corporate
Interesting.
influencer and as a role, actually. People be paid to be a corporate influencer.
Well, I would say that what's really interesting to me is I would say, cool, right? The attention economy would say that if you are that person, and let's say Google features you and you blow up, right? Like everybody else, you're going to quit, become a content creator, and then you'll be opening your own agency. And I really don't see it where it like doesn't like stop this riptide of like, I'm going to promote you and the idea of you, and then you leave my company. Right. And so when do we contain thought leadership and still the person benefits from it, but really by staying at that company, right? So that would be where I would say they click on it and do something. Now that person, i.e., you, the employee, is getting
So what
money.
they're looking for are niche creators in
Yeah,
their space, and then they pay them either to bring them on full time
yeah,
or paying them, as a creator to promote their company.
that's
So I
cool.
am now with Google or but this was a person who worked at Google
Yep,
that Google was actually actively promoting to help him grow his
sure,
audience and
right,
thought leadership. And it works for both people, like
yeah,
as long as it works, right? So I think it's if they leave, they'll find another person to be the
that's
thought
true.
leader for Google. It's not like there's a dearth of people out there saying I don't, that want to work there.
Yeah,
So I do think it works for everybody,
yeah,
honestly, because you get to grow your
I like
audience.
that.
Google gets to use your influence for a while, and it works for
Everybody
everyone.
benefits. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You're also using the name Google to get your footprint out, so that's huge.
Especially those niche creators who have really good, strong audiences in a specific space. They're
Yeah.
ripe for that.
Well, the
So I think
creator economy's freaking competitive. I
it'll be
mean,
very interesting to see how that unfolds. What's your second prediction?
oh boy. Will the Donald Trump and Elon Musk bromance end? I think it's going to end. It's going to end badly.
You do.
Yeah, I think you can only be a pawn in a sitting duck for so long. Those kind of egos can't.
Excuse me.
Two egos like that have never been historically able to live in the same room. Both are going to have their own agenda. At the end of the day, as long as they both can benefit from the agenda temporarily, that's great, right? But when you start trying to go to Mars, when you start talking about these drones that are freaking flying over Massachusetts, and you start to go, well, this sounds like Elon to me, right? I mean, a lot of these things sound way more like Elon to me than it would be a typical president. I think what will happen is Elon ultimately is going to say, I can't get what I want that way, so I'm going to just go do it on my own. And ultimately, that will leave, call it Washington leaving itself pretty flat. But you're looking at the private sector, call it, you can invest in Elon. And really now, I think the platform of the White House is being used to accelerate all of his stuff, right? And I haven't seen yet how that's going to be included in war. I don't know if he's producing war drones or robots. I think they are, right? But he stands to benefit a lot during this next 4 years. And I think it's going to end just because egos like that can't live
How long?
that
How long
long.
do you give it?
Um,
6 months? 2 years?
if the Ukrainian war can end and Elon can look like he had something to do with it, I think it will sustain itself longer. If not, I think it will be less than 8 months. I think before August, it will be
Okay.
over.
That'll be interesting. I'm curious to see how your prediction holds up. But I agree. When you get two big personalities in a room, and maybe they just need to stay out of the same room.
Probably.
But it can be a great thing if everyone's aligned. So I think the alignment piece, whoever is pulling the strings in the background will have to work really hard on
That's
making
right.
sure they're aligned.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a recipe for
I'm sure they've got some pretty smart people.
yeah, exactly.
They just got to stay out of their own way, right?
Yeah.
That's the hard part.
Well, we know AI is going to transform 2025. And I think one of the things I've been thinking a lot about is from a content perspective and AI content everywhere. We've already seen it on LinkedIn. We've
Mhm.
seen it on other platforms as well. Comments specifically, just AI
Terrible.
comments taking over, and they're terrible and boring and,
Yeah.
just clogging up like any meaningful conversation. Love this. It's all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that it does pave the way for some new roles. I think we're going to start to see some new roles out there, specifically when it comes to AI.
Okay.
So think about things like prompt engineering. We're seeing
Yeah.
a lot of courses now being taught on
Yeah.
how to do AI prompts,
Yeah.
how to create good prompts, right, for your
Yeah.
organization. So I think the AI strategist, the AI tools manager,
Yeah.
think of all the AI tools that
I
are
would
out
love to have
there.
that role in our company.
And even things like an AI model manager. How do I create AI models for my company that we can use to be
Yeah.
more efficient and effective? So I think
Love
those
it.
are some new roles we'll start to see this year.
Yeah.
Probably more of that towards the later of 2025, because I think a lot of businesses are still trying to figure this out and
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to
Yeah.
understand the benefit of being small is we can move really fast and test things.
Yeah.
But those, big organizations, I think are just still trying to risk averse organizations are still trying to figure it out. I
Mm-hmm.
did start to see some new roles from a chief AI officer. We'll see how that plays out over the course of
Wow.
the next year too. But I do think we're going to start to see some more AI
Yeah.
roles. So if you're young and hungry, that might be something to
Yeah.
think about in terms of how do I find my way
Yeah.
in this space where I can be of value and still leverage these new tools.
Or if you're old, you should be scared shitless, because if you don't learn this stuff, you will be out of a job and you won't know what to do with yourself. And I think that's the other thing is I'm hearing learn this, right? So if I'm 40, 45 and I'm not quite happy with what I'm doing, maybe go become a prompt engineer, right? You can learn this stuff on your own.
Yeah, and the courses are like free and
Yeah.
cheap.
LinkedIn has them. You go down the list, like they're free, they're there. And if you become good at it, you can put it on your resume, right? You can, I think your father-in-law went to like a course through Harvard or something.
He
And
did a data analytics course a while back,
okay,
but
sure. Like you can
yeah,
say you did it, right? And
yeah,
that's great. Nobody's holding you back.
that's true.
And I think even our own selves, right, could be prompt engineering geniuses. We could have AI dialed in our business, but then you go like, at what cost, right? It really is only enterprise businesses who can afford that, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
I love the idea, and this is sort of just right now as we're talking about
yeah,
2025 is the year of reinvention, right? Like
yeah.
you get to reinvent how you want to, and you can do this at any point. And I do love that about my dad got what do you call the Invisalign? I think he was
Oh
like
yeah.
76 when he got
Hell
Invisalign.
yeah.
Took a data analytics course at
Yeah.
he's now 81, but took him he was like 79 when he
Yeah.
took a data analytics
Go for
course.
it, man.
And I love that. Like just how do you and I so I think I've sort of learned and absorbed that, and I'm not afraid to completely switch careers at 49 years old and
Yeah.
start something
Scary
new.
though, right?
It is scary, but it's also what's scarier is not doing it, not
Oh.
doing anything, and just waiting for the big bomb to drop and happen to you.
Mm.
So what I think is so I think it's scarier to be stagnant than to reinvent. So I think a lot of companies are going to be reinventing themselves and reinventing the way that they work in 2025.
Wow. That's big. I feel like this next thing is
Yeah,
a
that
little
just came to me.
too small during that. Like, who's going to win Super Bowl? Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
Yeah, who's going to win the Super Bowl? Guys, is it the Chiefs again? I mean,
Chiefs are, I mean, if I had to break it down and if I had to bet, I'd say the Chiefs. If I had to go with my heart, the Vikings are so good this year and they got such a great
the
story.
Vikings are never going to win, Steve. I'm sorry.
I know. But the
I love
Detroit
Minneapolis
Lions,
too.
you love Detroit style pizza.
I
Detroit
do
Lions are
love
really,
Detroit.
really good this year. So
Yeah.
I think
I even bought a
we're gonna
Detroit
see.
T-shirt. I don't think I told you that. I bought a Lions shirt.
You did.
I did.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
it's their year and they're pretty good. So I'd have to say I'm going to predict the Lions will win this year. I think.
Well, I don't know if they'll win, but I think they're going to start to gain momentum. You know,
Have
the
you watched them
Chiefs-
play? They're
Oh,
very good.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
You
what
have
do you
not
think?
watched them play. Yeah.
No, I
They're
go
very
on
good.
vibe.
Yeah.
I'm going on vibes.
I like the vibe. You're going on colors.
I mean, I still love Pittsburgh for a lot of reasons.
I like Pittsburgh. They're terrible at football right now.
I know, but I love the gritty cities. I love
Okay.
the Detroits, the Pittsburghs.
Is that who you're just picking
the
them?
Clevelands?
Who are you picking? Kansas City, Detroit?
No, I just don't want it to be Kansas City. I'm sorry.
Okay, so her pick is not Kansas City.
Anybody Kansas
Got it.
City.
I'm going to pick Detroit. Second, you go back and watch this. The Vikings are going to, if they beat Detroit, they're going to take it all. So it's either
Okay.
Detroit or Minnesota. NFC North, really strong division this year. Look at the data. Data don't lie. You might see Justin Jefferson holding up the MVP trophy very soon.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good prediction.
It's exciting
Okay.
times. And I do watch football again. I took 4 or 5, 6 years off. So it is
So,
exciting.
yeah, and as someone who's probably watched a total of 7 games of football in my entire life, you probably shouldn't follow my predictions. I
Yeah.
just go for the vibes, straight vibes over here.
Vibes are good though.
I do
Let's
watch a lot of baseball,
like
but football,
this is
no.
one you can go into. So now what is next for Taylor Swift, Travis Kelsey? I really don't give to you know
I
what.
have no idea what's
Okay.
happening there.
Well, I want to talk about it because people seem to want to know. And I would
Okay, well,
say
since you probably know since you have a direct line into both of those
I don't like it.
folks.
I don't like, of course, it's naturally rubbing me the wrong way.
Why?
Well, Travis Kelsey just is a little too broy for me. Him and the brother, like the goatees and like we're two brothers and we're kind of dumb dance. Like, come on.
Oh, is that why does that bother you? Why do you care?
Because it reminds me of the jocks I didn't like in high school. Probably.
Okay.
And
Is that what it is?
yes,
Yeah.
for sure. And he
But
was
you
like
really
the
secretly want
bad
it? You
boy
want
with
that?
Cincinnati. I don't
Uh-huh.
want that. No.
Okay.
And then the whole Taylor Swift thing, like obviously she didn't have a lot of impact on the election. She thought she could swing that. So I think like that's going to last about till they don't get a Super Bowl victory and you will not hear about them again.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I have no idea what will happen there. I do think you might vastly underestimate the power of the Swiftie crew. Now, I don't
Ooh.
know personally, I don't know, but I like the girl power vibes she gives off. And again, I'm going by vibes
I didn't say I don't
only
like
'cause
her.
I don't know.
I just don't
But
like Kelsey.
okay. Got it. Yeah. I mean, I think she seems like a good person. I don't know anything about him. Probably can throw a ball pretty well, it seems like. And
You can catch a ball
good
well
luck
too.
to both of them. I don't know, except for the Chiefs. I don't want the Chiefs.
We're
Go
never
Detroit.
ever getting back together. Isn't that her?
that was her.
That's the next
Like
ex.
circa
She
2012, I
torches her
think.
exes though. Like, look at the trail of terror she leaves behind her. She sings about them.
What about
It's
the trail of
mean.
terror they left behind
Well,
for her to sweep up?
That's a
Good for
different
her
angle.
for making lemonade.
She's made a lot of money off of her.
That's right. That's called lemonade, Steve.
She doesn't have any accountability for this.
Maybe you just wish
She's
that
the only one who didn't have any. She had something to do with all of those things. She profited off of their
Again.
pain.
Well, good for her. That's smart.
I'm not saying, yeah.
Off of their pain or her pain?
The pain of
It
the
seemed
relationship.
more like it was her pain that she was transforming to me.
Oh, interesting. So she
Yeah.
never was interesting.
I don't know. I'm all for figuring
I'm
it
go
out.
listen to a Taylor Swift album right now because I don't know. I don't think they're gonna make it. I don't really care. It was on my list. Let me.
My kids are more like indie rock. They're grunge vibe. They're like Rage Against the Machine still, and
Yeah.
so we don't have a lot of Taylor Swift playing in my house, but she seems groovy to me, so I'm all for doing it.
I like how she acts at school. I definitely got in your car at one point in time, and that was all that was on about 4 or 5 years ago. Was
My
Taylor
car?
Swift, yeah, with the kids.
Okay.
It's a pop culture thing.
Okay.
All right, well, let's get on pop culture. So,
What
will
else you got?
AI disrupt more jobs, creating more jobs, or will it take away more jobs by 2025? What's
I
your
don't think
take?
it's going to have that much of an impact on 2025 from a jobs perspective. I think people are
Okay.
still figuring out how to use it. Probably 2026. I think we'll see some shift in the job market due to AI.
Okay.
I do think people are going to try to figure out how to be more efficient, and as they learn how to be more efficient over the next 12 months, I think then it will start to. I mean, we'll start to see a trickle effect. I think this year, but I don't think that companies can move that fast. I don't think they can figure out in 3 to 5 months. Oh, this is how we use AI. Bobby, you're gone.
Well, it's been longer though. It's been 12 to 24 months. I mean, they've had a long time now to get some runway.
How many companies do you think are really using AI effectively today?
I think at the enterprise level, we're starting to see some people adapt well. I think we're starting to see some e-com brands use AI intelligently. I don't know about product development, but it looks exciting to me. I think in the startup space, I'm kind of over the sales and marketing product angle of it. I mean, there just hasn't been anything that groundbreaking yet. When there is, I will talk about it nonstop.
Yeah.
But right now, it's like how many times can you talk about writing an email?
I think the
differently?
tools are moving too fast. I think we haven't wrangled around who is the best person to lead who are the best types of people to lead these teams yet and lead
Yeah.
the tools. That I don't
It's a
think
big
that
digital
and
transformation
companies
thing.
move slow. Like the small companies like ours move pretty quick and embrace things quickly and are testing things, but
Yeah.
big companies, forget about it.
What
I
about
mean,
healthcare?
they're
Very
still, oh,
slow.
healthcare. Like they're still like, gosh, do we have a governance group yet?
Yeah.
What should we do? Should we let the doctors use it to take notes? Like
Yeah.
that, they're still on that train, right? Not bad, but just they move slow.
Yeah, they have to.
So I think a lot of companies are still figuring it out. I wouldn't say there's a huge job disruption yet. Maybe in tech, we'll start to see more of that over the next probably end of 2025.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say job shifts due to AI,
Mm.
probably not the first half of the year for sure.
Okay. Let's talk about something I think really, really interesting. Mars. I'm going to say, I don't know. Do you
Mars.
think we're going to get to Mars by 2030 or
These
not?
are the texts I get from Steve at 5 a.m.
Yes.
Do you think that quantum mechanics, like what did you sent me a quantum mechanics text one morning that was like, we're not even really here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I haven't even had coffee yet.
Yep. Right.
This is too much.
Answer the
Go
question.
ahead.
Mars by 2030.
What about Mars?
Are we going there? 2030. Are we going to be on Mars?
Why? Are we personally going to be on Mars?
Will Mars be landed on by 2030?
Why do I care about that?
Well, it's a big topic right now.
Why would I care?
Well, Elon Musk cares.
Why?
The space is the next frontier.
But why Mars?
It's the next big question mark. It's the biggest next.
Is there
question
life
mark.
there? Is there somewhere? Can we colonize it?
We don't know yet, Melissa. That's really nice. It's a race to the unknown, right? We kind of know what's on the moon. Definitely know what's on the sun.
The unknown.
We don't quite yet know what's on Mars.
Yeah.
We don't know if there's vegetation.
Somebody buy that URL.
We don't know if there's water on Mars, and we don't know if they have water.
Yeah, we do. Like, we know if there's water on Mars.
Do we really?
Yeah.
Do we? Have we
We've
been
sent
on
probes there
in the water?
I don't know.
See?
Okay, so we're going to go to Mars this
If we
year?
expect to have life on Mars in the next 25 years, we better go to Mars. It has to be a place that we can inhabit. And there is a large theory that we can actually go live on Mars.
I'm not going to Mars.
I would definitely go to Mars.
All right.
Absolutely go to Mars.
Well,
I would live on Mars, and I would get a shuttle to come back and see you and the kids every day.
See ya.
But I definitely want to go see Mars. I want to check it out. Why not? Be a part of it.
Why?
Be a part of it. The human
this
legacy
is the
pushes on.
person who you wouldn't even want to get on a flight by yourself like 10 years ago. Because you didn't like it. You didn't like traveling.
Oh, well, that's changed. It's space, baby.
Okay.
This is different. This is different.
So Dallas, no, but Mars, you're in.
I just like to travel with her. Now she's making it seem like I don't like to travel. I like to travel with other people.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
I would like to go to space with you.
I don't know if I want to go to space.
Okay.
You want to go to the crazy, I just want to go.
Let's get an RV and go camping on Mars.
I want to see like the wonders of the world. And you want to go to the Nile in the middle of the night and take some crazy trip where you're swatting tsetse flies and
not
to get
Mars
19 inoculations.
I'm
not interested.
We're going to definitely get to Mars by 2030. I think Elon's going to push for it in a big way. And I think that's what we're really going to struggle with if we're looking at the next big push.
Why can't you just take a nice vacation?
This is not where the world's headed right now. This is the end of the world. Like, this is the beginning of the end right now. It's going to be fun.
Train ride from Paris to...
I would love that.
To somewhere nice.
Yeah,
I don't know, like the south of France.
Let's go.
But like you want to go on the Nile and the Mars.
I want to do that too. I want to do all of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I do want to talk about AI a little bit more, just from the creativity standpoint and the quality standpoint. Because I tested something the other day where I was trying to create an interactive budget sheet. Like you can do basic budgeting on AI. It's pretty easy. Like give me a blah, blah, blah. But I said, here's all of my, income. Here's all of my bills. And, I want you to give me some levers that I can, move and shake some of these things and plan this out over the next 2 years. Yeah. Right. It was a disaster. I spent 3 hours going back and forth.
Header rows, column rows.
Oh, just the formatting was a nightmare.
Did you get it right?
No, I had to do it manually. So this is where I think from an AI perspective, it's great at coming up with, here's some content ideas.
Sure.
Here's some, blah, blah, blah. Here's some research. And some of the research is bad.
Yeah.
So there is still so much quality, so many quality issues with AI, so many creative issues with AI. But I think there's all the content, there's going to be this is going to be the year where there's just content everywhere.
Sprawl. Yeah.
Everywhere. And so I think figuring out how to differentiate yourself, either from the writing, like how do we take this writing and
Mhm.
make it stand out.
Yeah.
Figuring out how do we creatively stand out
Yep.
from all that, because it's just taking the old stuff and remixing it, and
Yeah.
it's just it's
Yeah.
terrible right now. So I think from an AI perspective, is if you think about how do we get our hands around this, I mean, leverage it for the efficiency,
Mm.
leverage it for the batching, leveraging it for the ideas, but you're still going to have to do a lot of the creative
Mhm.
final touches, the quality
Yep.
touches, and the differentiation. How do we stand out
Mhm.
from the rest of the junk?
Yeah. Yeah. Go download Opus Clip and try and get anything done there. Like, good luck. I mean, you might get a good framework, and a video editor might say it's easy to use, but that's like the sound guy tells you, like, oh, it's easy to make the speaker work. You're like, really? Really, motherfucker? You've been doing it for 10 years. Like, I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried getting a Rode mic to work
The
like at an
editing,
event?
the rendering, all of that, definitely
It's a
AI.
lot. Yeah.
Use all AI for all of that,
Ah,
but the creative stuff
I'm telling you no on the edit. Like,
on the rendering, okay.
I'm not dumping in a big file and saying, give me 10 of your best clips. I don't think, and I've told you this, I don't think it catches the moments for us, right? I think it
Yeah.
catches moments for like very general stuff,
Yep.
but it doesn't catch the timing of like, oh, that's the thing, right? It'll
Yep.
just miss it and grab 6 of the most obvious. That's my sentiment. Like,
I would agree.
and those are pretty easy, and the Q&A sit downs, and like, okay, but I'm not going to watch that content. It sucks.
So thinking about that, video content,
Yeah.
all in next year. Video is doubling down, which is, probably music to our partner's ear here.
Yeah.
But in
Caleb
terms
loves
of
it.
video, what's happening?
Oh,
Short
geez.
videos, video shorts on YouTube,
Yeah.
everything snackable, bite-sized videos.
Yep.
Live streaming,
Yep.
huge this year.
Yep.
And then product videos, demos, and customer stories.
Mhm.
That's my prediction
Yep.
for video
And
this
stop
year.
talking about boring shit. Like, nobody likes it.
Yeah.
Like, I will use this example. There is somebody I know who has a YouTube channel, and they have a podcast. They don't even watch it. I would say, then stop it.
I would digress. People watch people sleeping. That's about as boring as it gets.
Yeah, but if you don't watch your own podcast, I'm sorry. It's and like, you have to be able to get into your own stuff, right? And want to live there if you expect other people to want to be there. And I
Yeah.
think that's the litmus test is, does this make me want to gag?
Yeah. So what would you tell someone if they're like, I don't know what to make a video about?
I would say, what doesn't make you want to puke on your lap? Make that.
Well, that could be a lot of things.
Great.
So,
Start there. And then say, what's the one thing that could make me money? And if that's what I'm trying to do in business, and then where's the biggest opportunity? Okay. For me, like, a lot of people would say, I don't like to talk about sales. It makes me sick. Like, I don't like that. I'd say, great. I like to talk about it. I know a lot about it. And I can tell you how to do it differently than a lot of people, in a way that I can give you proof where you go, man, this guy must know what he's talking about.
So what you're saying is be valuable. Share content that's valuable to your audience.
Yep.
Be funny. That always works.
Yep.
You don't have to do both of those things. If you can, great. But be valuable first. Be quick and to the point.
Yes.
And, humor always sells. People are always going to look for funny stuff, weird stuff. That's trendy. So you do have to be careful if you're like too quirky, too funny, too blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Because it is like kind of flavor of the moment
Well,
stuff,
you either have it or you
right?
don't. Like, not everybody's funny. If you're funny, be funny.
But if you're valuable, that's
Sure.
going to be helpful, right? So
Big
be
time value.
valuable, be brief,
Mhm.
and show proof.
Here's good evidence, right? Look at the kid who goes around. I don't even know his name right now. I should know it. He's Christian, super positive mindset, interviews guys, usually guys and gals who are executives in Florida, and goes, excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Can you tell me how you got that Lamborghini? Right? No,
Oh, I love that. How'd you make your money?
exactly.
Yeah,
right?
that kid. He's
That
great.
guy's only talking to other people about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Case in point. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, that's it. That's right. He never once says like, hey, I'm doing really good, by the way, and I'm going to go walk into a parking lot, but also contact me if you want me to come up to you with a microphone. Like, he just does his thing.
But what's valuable is everybody wants to know, how'd you make all that money? How'd you get that car?
I watch every one of them.
Right?
So start a podcast about what? The business problem you solve, and the people who, like, what was your life like before that problem?
Yeah.
What did you do to change the problem? What is it like now?
Mm-hmm.
And then people will see you in their shoes, and I go, that's it. There's your podcast.
Yeah. So valuable content, short content. What about platforms?
Oh,
We've talked a
boy.
little bit about this before, but I'm really curious as you think about, where should you be on the
On
platform
yours.
perspective?
On yours. And I'm going to be bullish on this year. On your website, owning your list. And I think that you have to have content that's native to that. And I didn't think I'd say that walking in here, but the more I think about it, the more I don't know which platform can do what. And I don't like not owning your list. I don't like not being seen in a feed. I don't like not knowing the algorithm. I'd rather be able to say, well, anytime I can hit send, And this is going to go out to my list, our list of people who say they're interested in this.
Yeah.
So you got to segment the list, find the content that's appropriate for them, and then drive value into those pillars. And so right now you could be saying, hey, I'm going to poll my audience. What do you guys care about? What are the top 5 things?
Yeah.
Make your content around that, right?
Yep. I love that. And there's some new like social commerce, thinking about TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all those those are the new sales platforms. So whether it's the selling live, that's a big
Gotta
thing
figure
now.
that one out, man.
Yeah, that's so crazy, but that's going to be huge.
Yep.
And then community centric approaches, whether that's LinkedIn, that's big. And then Insta is also moving to big community kinds of features. So building your community. So here's in summary for me, what I would say from a sales and marketing perspective, we got lots of things we could talk about, but you have to know your customer. You have to know the offer.
What does that mean though? Because everybody says that, like, wow, what do you know your customer?
So you have to know, like? And if you haven't done this, so this is one of the things in design thinking, we would really hone in on this. Like, you have to know, what are their pains? What are their dreams? What are the things that they get stuck on all the time?
Find out?
Ask, interview, research.
You just reach out.
So we call it ethnographic research. And what that means is if you do research on this persona, and so it can be Google research, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, whatever you use, research. Interviews. That's the best stuff. Interviews with open-ended questions, asking questions
to your customers.
Yeah. So for us, it's all about revenue growth. As you think about growing.
Okay, I like that.
And so when you know the pains by asking your customers,
I see.
When you know the pain in their words, you then now you know your
audience.
Can I get
an example?
Right?
Like, you might ask me the question, Steve, what happens if you don't hit revenue 1 month? Right? Oh, not good, right?
Yeah. How does that feel? What goes through your mind?
Yeah. And then what?
And then I would use those words in my marketing. So, well, I think about this. I think about this. I worry if I'm going to feed my kids.
The words
like all
are
this stuff,
so
right?
Yeah.
So that's what we mean by like knowing your customers and understanding where they live. Like, what platforms are they on? Where do they buy from? How much do they spend on XYZ? All of those things. So getting laser focused on those personas.
Yeah.
And then understanding, really what that offer is that you have. Those are just the fundamentals,
wouldn't
right?
you love to own that list though and know everything about every one of those with your customer?
Sure, you can segment. You have a big list, and you can segment it. These are the people that are 30 to 35. These are the people that have, the income levels, and you can sort of segment it further that way or by product.
I'm saying that platform, to own your content, to have your platform and to be able to deliver it. I love all the platforms. I love LinkedIn the most because of what it is. I love YouTube a lot. And I think everything else behind that, I think owning your own and then driving it out there is probably the direction most people should say. And when I say own your own, it means no matter what, like, you can own the push button, right?
Yeah. So if you don't have that research, if you haven't done that work on your customers, and you're investing in marketing in 2025, you're probably throwing a significant amount of your revenue away.
How would you know?
Significant amount of that spend away.
Yeah. How would
because you
know?
haven't, it's like you're aiming all over the place. You have to know exactly who that persona is.
Symptoms are like, oh, I missed revenue, so I might.
You're just what would happen is, like, you would be able to tell because you're not getting engagement on your content. You're not getting responses on your outreach. You're not getting buying signals, and you're not getting purchases on your offer. Like, that's how you know, right? Like, those are the ways that you know.
So if you know that, then what's my next step?
You go back to the board and start dialing it in.
Okay. Do I engage someone from outside? Like,
well, you can engage us. You can engage other, but I would do those classic design thinking exercises.
A lot of people don't know how to do that, though, I don't think.
Well, it is what I just said, right? It's going to your current customers and saying, tell me about what relief did you get when you used this service? Tell me how that felt.
Do you
record
like,
that? Oh, I get that off. I get this
then?
off my plate. And then you can say, like, tell me what else you're frustrated with as you think about, your growth and where you want to go. Like, what is the thing that's really holding you back? Or where do you feel like you're spending money and you don't know where it's going?
Yeah.
Tell me about that. How does that feel?
Yeah.
And tell me about the things that go through your mind when you write that check, right? And you're like, or you pay that invoice and you're like, I don't even know where this is going. This is frustrating. I'm sick of this, right? Like, have them talk about that. And those are the things like that's where you start to pull those threads.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can record it, of course, but I think this is the year if you don't have a laser focus on your audience, you really because everything's personalized, hyper segmented, targeted. You
Yep.
know, if you don't have your target accurate,
Yeah.
you're going to be shooting all over the place.
Yeah. You're talking to them or somebody else's. That's usually at the end of the day, right? If they're subscribing to you or somebody else. Like that's the harsh truth.
Yeah.
And if your message isn't resonating, you should change it. And you can. And that's the cool part is like if you're just like, well, that's who I am, like don't be that way. Because it's business, right? You can be yourself, but you can also change who you are, your delivery, right? And something I learned about my own self was I kind of sound like a dick all the time, right? And I didn't want to sound like a dick all the time, like, but a little too certain, right? And so I like embracing that tone in a different way. I think looking at that has netted better results with content when I took that feedback and applied it, right? So I like what you're saying. I think it's really hard for people to take feedback and apply it. Um,
You're talking about being yourself on content.
If they're looking at 2025 and they want to say, well, geez, I got to change. I want to improve. I want to get more views. I want more content to convert to revenue, right?
I would say polarization always sells. And when you look back, and I follow a lot of the LinkedIn, the people that have a lot of followers and views, and polarization sells for sure. That gets you a lot of views and it will get you a lot of clicks. Now, whether that translates to a buy button probably depends on your finesse with that. I don't think I'm not necessarily a polarizing person. I don't think, and I'm not going to be just to get more clicks. I don't care. I don't need that. What I want is to provide value to my customers. So if I give you information that you can use, ultimately you will get to know me. You'll get to trust me, and I continue to build my audience slowly and consistently. That will work. And I still believe that. I still believe in the midst of all the clickbaity polarization,
It's
thousands
evident.
of click
It's
world.
evident in the work.
I don't care. I want to reach the people that care about what I'm talking about.
Right.
And I want to provide them value.
Okay. So
the end, right?
Okay.
Like I don't care about like how I come across. I mean, I definitely don't want to come across a certain way, but I don't need to be a persona in order to get the clicks.
I like it. Well, you sound very certain about that. I like that.
I am. Yeah, that is something I prefer to be authentic than be clickable.
Yeah, and a lot of people would say that and really don't mean that, right? They may say, "Well, I got to get somebody who can give me more likes and more impressions." And I would just say, pause, reflect, and say, "Is that sort of feedback on the way I'm living my entire life?" That's a big one. I'm gonna mic drop there right now and just say, like, if your content's not going over, like, just say, like, is what I'm saying.
Is it valuable?
Too much about me? Is it valuable? Is it something that they've heard before? Like, am I serving value? Because I'm ultimately in business and life.
Yeah.
Kind of goes back to the YouTube guy fixing the car, right? That's valuable to everybody. He has a car, they want to change the oil. So be of value, right? Find the problem that people want to fix and be the best person or the option that they want to pick. And I think, Melissa, you nail that as you're not everybody's type. You're very much you.
I'm not for everybody.
Yeah.
That is true.
And you don't change that. And people would know that though, right?
Yeah.
That's hard to scale. It's hard to replicate, but it's you. I'm similar and different, right? And you put us together and we get different people who come inbound to our company because of who you are and because of who I am.
Yeah.
It's part of the interesting problem we have to solve, right? Is how do we get a same customer when we're two different people? And so that's almost like, well, we both have our own brand. How do we now get the company brand plus our brands in 2025?
We are both magnetic in terms of who we represent. So I think we do it in a different way. So I think ultimately, to summarize it, provide value, be short and sweet, know your customer, and leverage AI to be efficient and effective as possible.
Yep.
And keep your head up and be willing to change and transform as the business landscape does, because it will change and transform a lot over the next few years. So that I think would be a good summary from my perspective. What would you add to that?
Simple, have a positive mindset, enter every day, be positive. It is a game changer. I can do it one day at a time. I did it today. It mattered, right? And like now I got to remind myself to do it this afternoon. Life's hard enough. I think we all learn that. Enter it with a positive mindset. All the things you mentioned become easier. I know it sounds a little hippy-dippy, but I challenge you to do it. Me?
Challenge me or everybody?
Everybody.
Okay, good.
To say that wouldn't be the glue, wouldn't be the glue and the catalyst to make 2025 really awesome.
Love it. All
Yeah.
right. Well, there we go. There's the predictions for 2025. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And if you did find this valuable, make sure to subscribe and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Peace. 2024.
Ciao.
Go yourself.
Go Lions.